Picture this. You open your kitchen cabinet, the same one you've reached into 1,000 times before, and sitting there like nothing in the world is wrong is something you've probably used for years, maybe even decades. It might have been handed to you by your mom, bought on autopilot every time you hit the grocery store, or tossed into the pantry because that's just what always lives there. And what I'm about to tell you is this. For people over 55, that one everyday thing could be quietly wearing down two organs that almost never complain until the damage is already serious. No drama, no warning light, no sudden alarm. Just slow, invisible harm happening in the background while life keeps moving. That is exactly why so many people are shocked when they finally see the lab work. They feel fine. Nothing hurts. Nothing seems off. Then one routine test later, everything changes. Decades of preventive medicine point to the same heartbreaking pattern over and over again, and doctors see it in real life every single day. Good people, active people, grandparents, retirees, folks who were living normally right up until the moment their numbers came back and made them realize the problem had been building for years. Today, I want to walk you through what the clinical evidence is really telling us, in plain English, without medical jargon getting in the way. Because this is the kind of information you deserve before the damage is done, not after. Stick with me, because what you are about to hear may be one of the most important health conversations you watch all year. I'm Dr. Franklin, and if you are here for the first time, this channel is all about giving you clear, science-backed health information in a way that actually makes sense. The kind of thing your doctor wishes there was more time to explain during a standard 10-minute appointment. But before we get into it, I want to ask you something simple for the comments. What city or country are you watching from? I read every comment, and I genuinely love knowing who is part of this community. All right, let's get into it. The organ most people forget about until it is already in trouble. Before I reveal what is hiding in your kitchen, I need to help you understand why your kidneys are worth protecting so fiercely in the first place. There is something fascinating and honestly a little sad about how human beings prioritize health. We think about the heart. We watch blood pressure. We check cholesterol. We worry when we feel a twinge in our back, or a weird sensation in our chest, or a pain in our knee. But the kidneys? Most people barely give them a thought unless something goes wrong. They are the unsung heroes of the body, and they do their job in near total silence. Let me paint the picture. Imagine the most efficient cleaning crew imaginable working inside your home every hour of every day, 7 days a week, with no holidays, no sick days, and no breaks. That crew filters roughly 200 liters of blood every single day. They remove waste, toxins, and extra fluid. They help regulate blood pressure. They keep your electrolytes balanced. They activate vitamin D so your bones stay protected. They even help your body produce enough red blood cells so you do not walk around feeling exhausted all the time. That is what your kidneys are doing. And here is the scary part. They do all of that while staying almost completely quiet. They do not have the kind of nerve endings that send sharp, obvious pain signals the way your back or your knee does. A person can lose 60%, even 70% of kidney function and still not feel anything dramatic. Maybe a little tiredness, a little swelling in the ankles, a bit of fogginess. Nothing that screams emergency. That silence is exactly what makes kidney damage so dangerous. And for people over 55, that danger gets even bigger, because kidney function naturally begins to decline slowly, starting around your 30s. By the time you are in your 60s or 70s, your kidneys may already be working with less reserve than they used to have. That means they have a much smaller margin for error when they are exposed to things that strain or injure them. Think of it like this. When you are younger, your tank is full. You can waste a little fuel and still be okay. But later in life, when that tank is already only half full, every drop matters. Every choice matters. So what is draining that tank? That is what we need to talk about. I'm going to walk you through a hierarchy of hidden kidney threats, building up to the one I call the silent architect of kidney disease, the one that is probably sitting in your kitchen right now. Let's start from the outside and work our way in. Threat number 4 is the pill you trust a little too much. Maybe your knees hurt. Maybe your lower back has been acting up. Maybe arthritis flares every time the weather changes. So you do what millions of people do. You go to the medicine cabinet, pull out a small bottle, and take 1 or 2. Maybe you have done that every day for months. And because it is over the counter, it feels harmless. Nobody at the pharmacy asked any questions. The label says it is safe for adults. The problem is that the label does not tell you the whole story. I am talking about non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, or NSAIDs, things like ibuprofen and naproxen. These are some of the most widely used medications on Earth. And in older adults who use them regularly, they are one of the most underappreciated threats to kidney health that I see in preventive medicine. Here is the mechanism in everyday language. Inside your kidneys, tiny blood vessels and microscopic filtering pathways depend on signaling molecules called prostaglandins to stay open and flowing properly. You can think of prostaglandins like traffic controllers, making sure blood keeps moving through the kidney's filtration system without getting jammed up. NSAIDs work by blocking prostaglandins throughout the body, which is part of how they reduce pain and inflammation. That part works well, but the kidneys are affected too. When those prostaglandins are blocked, the tiny vessels in the kidneys constrict. Blood flow drops. The filters, called nephrons, begin to run low on oxygen, kind of like a city suddenly dealing with rolling blackouts. Take a pill once after a tough day, and your kidneys can usually recover. But do that every day for weeks, months, or years, and the blackouts start to pile up. Scar tissue forms. Nephrons get damaged. And here is the part nobody likes to hear. Once nephrons are destroyed, they do not regenerate. They are gone. The people at greatest risk are older adults, anyone whose kidney function is already even slightly reduced, people with diabetes, people with high blood pressure, and people taking blood pressure medications, because certain combinations can amplify the damage in ways that are easy to miss. So what should you do instead? First, talk to your doctor before using these medicines regularly. Ask about your kidney numbers, especially your GFR, which stands for glomerular filtration rate. Know your baseline. Second, look into alternatives for chronic pain. Physical therapy, targeted exercise, heat and cold therapy, and in some situations, acetaminophen used correctly can be gentler on the kidneys. Third, and I really mean this, never let pain control become silent kidney damage. Fixing one problem by creating another is not a real solution. If you are still with me and this is making sense so far, go ahead and type 4 in the comments. It helps me know you are watching and getting value from this. Threat number 3 is the dehydration you do not even feel. This one catches people off guard every time, because as we get older, one of the biggest changes in the body is also one of the least talked about. The thirst signal becomes less reliable. When you are younger, if your body needs water, your brain gives you a pretty clear message. You feel thirsty. You drink. Balance restored. But by the time we reach our 60s and 70s, that signal can get weaker, delayed, or in some cases barely show up at all until you are already significantly dehydrated. And that matters because your kidneys need a steady flow of fluid to do their job. When you are dehydrated, even mildly and consistently dehydrated, that flow slows down. Waste products become more concentrated in the blood. The kidneys have to work harder to filter less fluid. Urine gets more concentrated. That increases the risk of kidney stones, which are already one of the most common and painful kidney problems in older adults. But it is not just about stones. Chronic mild dehydration keeps the kidneys under constant low-grade stress. Over time, that stress contributes to a gradual decline in kidney function, the kind that shows up in lab results years later with no single dramatic event to blame. It is just time, and too many days of not enough water. So here is the practical advice I would give anyone over 55. Stop waiting until you feel thirsty. By the time you are thirsty, you are already behind. Build hydration into your routine. Drink a glass of water first thing in the morning before coffee. Drink one with every meal. Drink one mid-morning and one mid-afternoon. Look at your urine. It should be a pale straw color. If it is darker, your body is telling you something. And one thing I want to be very clear about: coffee, tea, sugary drinks, and alcohol are not substitutes for water. Some of them can actually make hydration worse. When we talk about hydration, we mean water. Plain, simple, no excuses water. This one is free. It is easy. And it may be the simplest thing you can do today to help protect your kidneys. Do not overlook it. Threat number 2 is the protein trap. Now this is where things get interesting, because this one confuses people the most. Protein is usually seen as a good thing, and in many ways it is. It helps build and maintain muscle, supports recovery, and gives you energy. That matters a lot, especially for older adults trying to fight the muscle loss that naturally comes with aging, a process called sarcopenia. But here is the part the wellness world does not say loudly enough. High protein intake, especially from certain sources and especially in large, unregulated amounts, makes the kidneys work harder. Let me explain. When your body breaks down protein, it creates nitrogen-containing waste products. One of the main ones is urea. Your kidneys have to filter urea out of the blood and send it out through urine. More protein means more urea. More urea means more work. In a young, healthy person with strong kidney function, that may not be a crisis. But in older adults, remember what we said about reduced kidney reserve, or in anyone whose kidney function is already compromised. Flooding the system with too much protein is like asking an already overloaded filtration plant to handle twice the work with half the staff. The research is clear enough that even conservative medical guidelines recommend people with chronic kidney disease reduce protein intake. But here is the twist that catches people off guard. That does not mean protein is bad. It means you need to be thoughtful about the amount and the type. Plant-based proteins like beans, lentils, and tofu are generally processed more gently by the kidneys than huge daily portions of red meat or ultra-concentrated protein powders. And the protein powder market has exploded, including among older adults who want to hold on to muscle, which means I see a lot of people unknowingly putting more strain on their kidneys than they realize. Nobody needs 200 grams of protein a day. That is not some magic health secret. Work with your doctor to figure out what is appropriate for your body weight and your kidney function. Get tested. Know your numbers. And if you love your protein shake, make sure it is not the only conversation you are having about your kidneys. Before we go any further, tell me your name and where you are watching from. I read every comment, and I would genuinely love to know who I am helping today. Now we get to threat number 1, the hidden kitchen killer. We have talked about painkillers. We have talked about dehydration. We have talked about too much protein. All of those matter. But now I want to talk about what I consider the most widespread, most overlooked, and most insidious kidney threat of them all. And what makes this one so frustrating is that it hides behind a health halo. It masquerades as something clean, natural, even smart. You will see it sitting on labels next to words like organic, heart-healthy, natural, and clean. I am talking about excessive dietary oxalate, especially the kind that comes from certain foods that a lot of health-conscious older adults eat every single day because they believe they are doing something good for themselves. Let me explain what oxalate is, because I can almost guarantee this is not something most people have ever had clearly explained. Oxalates are naturally occurring compounds found in plants. Plants make them as a sort of defense mechanism. Your own body also produces small amounts as a byproduct of normal metabolism. Under normal conditions, most dietary oxalate binds to calcium in the gut, leaves through the stool, and never causes trouble. But when oxalate absorption gets too high because of diet, gut microbiome issues, or reduced kidney clearance, it gets absorbed into the bloodstream. Then the kidneys have to deal with it. Here is what happens next. Oxalate gets filtered into the urine, and inside the kidney's filtration system, it likes to bind with calcium. When calcium and oxalate show up in the wrong concentration, they crystallize. Those crystals are what cause calcium oxalate kidney stones, the most common kind of kidney stone by far, making up about 80% of all stone cases. But the stone itself is not the whole story. That is just the painful event that sends someone to the emergency room. The deeper, quieter damage happens before the stone ever forms. Oxalate crystals, even tiny microscopic ones, can deposit in kidney tissue. They trigger inflammation. They cause scarring. They damage the tubules, the tiny passages inside the kidney where filtration actually happens. Over time, this can contribute to a condition called oxalate nephropathy, a pattern of progressive kidney damage that shows up in labs as slow, unexplained kidney decline. And who is eating the most high oxalate foods these days? Health-conscious older adults. Because the foods highest in oxalate are often the ones people are told are superfoods. Spinach is the big one. And yes, it is the single highest oxalate food most people eat regularly. 1 cup of cooked spinach can contain more oxalate than most people should consume in a whole day. Then there are almonds and almond products like almond milk, almond flour, and almond butter. Those have become pantry staples in a lot of homes, but they are very high in oxalate. Beets, whether raw, roasted, or juiced, are another big one. Sweet potatoes, Swiss chard, rhubarb, dark chocolate and cocoa powder, certain kinds of instant oatmeal. I am not saying these foods are poison for everyone, because they are not. For someone with healthy kidneys, a varied diet, and good hydration, they can fit into a healthy eating pattern. But for older adults, especially anyone with a history of kidney stones, anyone over 60 with reduced kidney function, or anyone who has been eating large daily servings of these foods for years, the cumulative oxalate load may be doing real damage that nobody has connected to their kidney numbers. And honestly, this is the part that bothers me the most as a preventive medicine physician. These people were trying to do the right thing. They wanted to be healthy. They read the articles. They watched the videos. They bought the organic spinach, the almond milk, the dark chocolate. They were making what they thought were smart choices. And nobody told them that, for their specific situation, some of those choices might be working against them. So what do? I told you from the beginning that the goal here is not to scare you. It is to arm you. So let me give you practical tools to fight back against all 4 of these threats, starting with the oxalate issue. First, think variety over volume. The most powerful change you can make with high oxalate foods is to stop eating them every single day. A spinach smoothie 7 days a week is a very different thing from spinach twice a week. Rotate your greens. Swap things out. Kale is much lower in oxalate. Arugula, romaine, and cabbage are great alternatives. You do not have to ban spinach from your life. You just have to stop making it the only green on your plate. Second, always pair high oxalate foods with calcium. This is critical, and almost nobody talks about it clearly enough. When you eat calcium-rich food at the same meal as a high oxalate food, the calcium binds to the oxalate in your gut before the oxalate ever gets absorbed into your bloodstream. Then it leaves through the stool instead of heading to your kidneys. That is why the old advice to avoid dairy if you have kidney stones was actually backwards. Eat your spinach salad with some cheese or a glass of milk. Eat dark chocolate with a little yogurt. Timing and pairing matter a lot. Third, hydrate aggressively. Water helps dilute urinary oxalate. It keeps the concentration low enough that crystals are less likely to form. Pale urine is the goal, not dark urine. That is your simple at-home kidney health check, and it costs nothing. Fourth, get your kidney function tested. If you are over 55 and you do not know your GFR and your urine albumin level, that should be your assignment this month. These are routine blood and urine tests. They show you where your kidneys actually are, not where you assume they are. Knowledge is protective in a way that no supplement or superfood can ever replace. Fifth, look again at your supplements. High-dose vitamin C, especially above 1,000 milligrams a day, can convert to oxalate in the body. A lot of older adults take large doses of vitamin C, thinking it is harmless, or even protective. If you are taking more than 500 milligrams of vitamin C daily, have a conversation with your doctor about your kidney function before you keep doing that. And for the other threats we covered today, remember the same core advice. Talk to your doctor before using NSAIDs regularly. Drink water before you feel thirsty. And if you are using protein supplements, know your amounts and know your kidney numbers first. Here is what I want you to walk away with. Your kidneys are working for you right now, this very second, while you are listening. They have been filtering, balancing, and protecting you every day of your life for 60, 70, maybe 80 years without asking for much in return. What we owe them is awareness. We owe them a basic understanding of what helps them and what harms them. Because the threats we talked about today, the trusted pill taken too often, the dehydration you do not feel, the excess protein, and the oxalate hiding behind the health halo, none of them are inevitable. None of them are beyond your control. You can rotate your vegetables. You can pair your foods more intelligently. You can drink an extra glass of water in the morning. You can ask your doctor for a simple blood test. None of those changes are flashy, but the small things added together over months and years are what keep a body functional, independent, and strong, well into your 70s, 80s, and beyond. That is what preventive medicine is really about. It is not waiting for the crisis. It is choosing to act before it arrives. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me, had you ever heard about oxalate and kidney health before today? Were you surprised by any of the foods we talked